Well, hello and welcome to this webinar on looking at the ARA to Melodyne integration into Pro Tools. So thank you so much. Great to see so many people on this. I hope you're going to get a lot out of it. We've got an amazing team of people alongside me. We've got a couple of amazing guests, so hopefully I'm not going to have to say too much. So I'm not sure I introduced myself. Actually, my name is Dave Tyler. I work for Avid. So I'm going to be hosting this, and as I say, we got some great guests, but also some people behind the scenes. So if you are on the Zoom call and you want to ask questions, then please make use of the Q&A function. So we have some people who will be able to answer those questions, but also towards the end we'll be taking questions live. So we'll sort of pick the good ones, and we'll ask our guests those directly. Also, if you're on any of the other social media feeds, then again, you can ask questions in the feeds. We have people from Avid monitoring those, and they can help out and answer. And as I say, maybe kind of pass some of those on to the session. So without further ado, our guests for today's webinar, we are very honored to have two amazing people who are really going to sort of help us dive into this subject and really tell us all about what's going on. So first of all, I'd like to introduce Stefan Lindahl, who is Melodyne's product specialist. And there's really nothing about Melodyne that he doesn't know. So he's going to be able to answer all those deep technical questions, but also, talk to us about things from the Celemony perspective. And then to help us out with sort of the practical side and showing you some tips and tricks on how the integration actually really works, I'm very pleased to have Devon Terrell here, who is, as an amazing CV, singer, songwriter, producer, YouTube influencer. So yeah, amazing to have you here, and really appreciate you, all of you, both of you, taking the time out to do this with us. So what we're going to do, the way we're going to start, I think, is I'd like to sort of start by just talking to Stefan a little bit, and we just want to maybe sort of dig in a little bit to a little bit of background about Celemony, about Melodyne, about ARA, kind of how all these things kind of came together. So it'd be great to have a little bit of background, bit of a history lesson. So over to you, Stefan.
Yeah, thank you. First, thanks for being here. Nice to join in this event. And as many of you know, Melodyne is around since quite some time. Even before I joined the company, Melodyne was already there at the beginning of the early 2000 years. And the basic idea of Melodyne, for those who don't know it, maybe in a nutshell, would be it's an audio editor, which, unlike other audio editors, does not just display waveforms, but also musical information like notes. Where are the notes? Where do they start? Where do they end? How do the pitch is fluctuating from one note to the next? So a kind of very musical view. That's what we wanted to build. And the original invention by Peter Neubecker was always designed actually to work not just on vocals, but also on all other instruments. But in the early 2000s, the technology wasn't there yet, so it started with vocals, and that's what people did then. They just corrected the tuning of a vocal, but it's always was supposed to be a bit more than just that. And today our topic is also ARA, or ARA, which stands for Audio Random Access. It's a technical term. The programmer guys, they know what this means. But for all the rest of us, it's just an idea we had like 11 years ago now, how a plugin such as Melodyne, but also others, can communicate with the DAW in a more musical way than it was possible back then with VST, RTAS back at that time, and audio units or so. Because these plugin architectures, they kind of had in mind what we all, or some of us at least, knew from our big recording studios back then with our tape machines and our patch bass and everything. So from the tape machine, the audio was routed through some effect chains and back, and everything was running in real time, and you could change the sound. And that's what the virtual studio, then VST, also did. And the ones who are listening now and who use Melodyne since years, indoors like Pro Tools, for example, they know the downside this means for programs such as Melodyne, because Melodyne needs to look at the whole audio file. Actually, Melodyne wants to look across the tracks. Melodyne and other plugins also want to compare one track to the other. And so it needs to have a lot of information that's far beyond real time. And the solution always was then to learn or relearn the audio in a recapturing process or transfer. We call it, or we did call it, transfer in Melodyne. Others call it capture or re-recording. And so you need to play back, as the user, you needed to play back the audio to the plugin before you could start work on what you wanted to work on. And so we came up with the idea to shorten this process. That's why we invented ARA, Audio Random Access. The plugin has access to the audio random in terms of the developer speech, means at any portion of audio at any time on any track, from the very beginning of the song to the very end, or even past that or so. And that was the beginning of ARA. And then, of course, it also added much more features to it in terms of when the DAW communicates with the plugin. It's, as I said, it's not only real time, like here's my audio, do whatever you want to do with it. And then the plugin says, okay, I did it, here it is back, so play it back or so in very short buffers or so. It's much, much more musical exchange between the two. For example, a plugin like Melodyne knows the chords and the chord track, and then it can give it to the DAW. It knows the tempo or the tempo fluctuation. And the other way around, the DAW, of course, also knows the tempo fluctuation that the user maybe has drawn in or recorded in. And this information can all be exchanged with the plugin. And so you're able, for example, to quantize the drums, but not to a static click, but to a variable click. And this all needs to be communicated, and that's what ARA is for. And as of today, it's in many DAWs, like depending on how you count it, 10 or more. And but we can probably later we come to it that it's not the feature set is not the same in every DAW. There may be differences, and the same goes for the plugins. It's like 12 or 13 plugins beside Melodyne now that support it.
Yeah, absolutely. So as you say, we can certainly dig into some of those details. So really, so as you're saying, so the ARAs, it's the underlying technology, it's the plumbing that allows this kind of real-time access to, instead of having to kind of go through the sort of that transfer process, it's instant access, so that you can do all that editing and so on that you want to do, but do it directly in the application, instead of having to sort of bounce between a plugin window and so on. And it's really kind of, it's integrating. I think that's we keep sort of using this word of integration, and I think that's a key part of this, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. The integration, it shouldn't feel like two separate programs. It should be just one workflow to be as close to the music that you just recorded while you're editing it, without spending thoughts on how to get audio from here to there and back again, and all these things that keeps you from your creative flow. So that's why we did it, and it's if you once you use it in your DAW, you love it. Everyone loves it.
No, that's an excellent point. As you say, ultimately it's down to the creative flow and ensuring that you can get your musical ideas together as quickly as possible, and not let, you don't want the technology getting in your way. It's supposed to be enabling you, right? Yeah.
For example, one example would be when we're talking about Melodyne, we are of course talking among other things, we're talking about editing vocals, and what's really important when you're editing vocals would be the part of comping, right? And without ARA or ARA, these are two separate processes. First, you do your comp, and then later on, you do your pitch editing or so. With ARA, It's just one process. You have it on every take, and you can, I mean, in the process of comping, it's what we all do when we do comp a vocal, for example. We have to take decisions, like we have to decide between the perfection in the recording, in the take, in the performance, and on the one hand, and on the other hand, the passion. And the passion often is not like every note is hit perfectly mathematically. It's often it's the opposite. And so you have to weigh these passion versus perfection. And to be honest, in today's more or less every genre, every pop or rock genre, you want to have both.
Yeah.
You want to have a passionate singer, but the audience is used to a certain kind of perfection. And that's what you have tools for. For the perfection, you have the tools, not for the passion. So passion comes from the singer, and then you have to see what you can alter, and then you combine it. And again, if this is two different processes as it was before without ARA, then you're missing a lot of potential creative and musical power. You just don't have it. And with the ARA, it's there.
Yeah. Actually, one thing you did mention. So ARA is, we're talking about this in the context of ARA enabling Melodyne inside Pro Tools. But there are other applications out there which have taken advantage of. I mean, you've essentially made ARA available as something that other companies can use to also do that kind of level of integration. Is that right?
Yes, that was from the first day. That was the idea. We invented it together with the folks from Presonus, the makers of Studio One, and it was good that we did it together because we had a team of people looking at it from the DAW side, right, and the other team from the plugin side, and that was a very good combination we had there. And it was from the first day on, it was meant to be open to everyone. And it makes a lot of sense to many plugins. It's all the leading plugins for vocal productions. They have it. Autotune in its graphical mode is using it. All the products from Synchro Arts like Revoice, Vocaline. And this makes a lot of sense because they all have the same need for looking at the whole audio. The same goes for Isotope, for example, the rebalancing plugins they have. They don't do it. It's a regular plugin because it doesn't make sense without ARA. It's just an ARA plugin because a lot of analyzation is happening across the whole track, and others like very great plugin is Auto Aligner. You may, or everyone may know it from years because it's around there, and it's a great tool for adjusting the difference between the microphones and the phase relations between microphones. But what they did now, they are Auto Align Pros. It's based on ARA technology. You couldn't do it without ARA. It's even handling moving microphones. And when I first heard that they wanted to do this, I was like, moving microphones? Why? When? But I didn't think of film, of course.
Yeah.
When you're shoot on the location, and then some guy is running there with a microphone, and it's a huge problem to get the right mix. And with this plugin, it's a piece of cake.
Yeah, amazing.
These are all examples where ARA is needed.
So I guess one thing to touch on then is that unlike a plugin format such as AAX, we've sort of implemented ARA into Pro Tools for Melodyne. You don't sort of get all the other applications for free, right? There's additional work that needs to be done for each one.
Yes, it's you can think of ARA is not a replacement to AAX or so. It's an add-on. It's adding more functions, and you have to build this in first, and then you have to support it. And it's work for every one involved. It's not that when you build it into Pro Tools, which was some reasonable amount of work to do that, it doesn't mean automatically that all other plugins will work. So it's some work needed on both sides, but the main or the most important thing is that it's there in the door, and then as a plugin manufacturer, you can say, oh well, now I can support it.
Yeah, so we've got that infrastructure in place, ready to build in more ARA platforms and so on.
And because some people often ask this, some users who said, "Oh well, I don't believe it will ever come to my plugin because I'm sure they charge money for it or so." That's definitely not the case. It's for free. It's more or less the opposite. We support our colleagues from other manufacturers on the technical side or so.
Yeah,
and so we had some great cooperations there with other plugin manufacturers in the past, and this will be the case in the future too.
Excellent. So no, that's a great background, and there's a lot more that we can talk about on that side, on the technical side and so on. But I think it'd be great to bring in Devon to just talk about the kind of the user experience and how you've been getting on. So I think one thing as you come on screen is that one thing that our users certainly want to know is when they can get their hands on this. So we're pleased to say that this is going to be available to you this week. Every Pro Tools, if you're a current subscriber or an upgrade plan since Pro Tools 2020.11, you've been able to you actually have Melodyne Essentials included. So make sure you've got Melodyne Essentials. You've got your authorization, you've got your serial number and so on. Make sure you get that authorized and installed, and then as soon as you've done that, then you're ready to go. So I think, Devon, we haven't seen your camera at the moment.
Gotcha. One second. Let me just make sure. For some reason, I'm just not getting my video feed.
Yeah, no worries. So I think actually what's will be useful about what you're going to be showing us is you've got it running just kind of with Melodyne Essentials, and Stefan can talk a little bit more about what's available from the sort of the kind of the higher versions of Melodyne. But certainly initially we can sort of look at what's possible with Melodyne Essentials, and looking actually at that in practice as soon as we have our video feed up and running, which of course was working perfectly a couple of minutes ago as we were
yes
running.
Don't you love practice. Technology?
Of course. As soon as we start running, then we get the gremlins in the system. Are we getting you coming through? Maybe while we're working on that, Stefan, I mean, if we want to chat a little bit more about, as I said, maybe some of these the kind of the different sort of layers, the different versions of Melodyne, and as I say, as a Pro Tools subscriber or on a current upgrade plan, then you get Melodyne Essentials, which is we'll see gives you a certain amount of functionality. But tell us a little bit about the other levels.
Yeah, I think the name Essential in Melodyne Essential makes it clear. You can do the essential power of Melodyne. You can alter the three things: pitch, timing and phrasing. This is together, and also the volume of individual notes. This is what you can do with every Melodyne edition, even with Melodyne Essential. You could even analyze chords out of polyphonic recording, convert these polyphonic chords into MIDI files or whatever. So this is the Essential technology, and we offer that in Melodyne Essential, and it comes with all the Pro Tools versions you just mentioned. And then on top of that, we have the next step would be Melodyne Assistant, which offers you more individual tools. When I was saying that you can alter, for example, the volume of individual notes in Melodyne Essential, you can't do that note by note with the tool. It's not like a Photoshop for sound or so, but you can do this with quick macros like leveling out the lead vocal or the backing vocal in comparison to the lead vocal. And if you want to have more certain, how would you call that, like surgery controls on each little snippet or so, then you would probably want to use Melodyne Assistant. You because it's just more tools. And with Melodyne Editor and then later Melodyne Studio, we also offer the diving into the polyphonic audio, like looking into a chord, a guitar chord, seeing all the strings or the notes played on different strings and just retuning one finger of the guitarist or so. This is then the beauty of the higher editions. But now Devon is back, and you should
yes, let's hand over to you. Let's have a look at this in action. And as I say, I know there's been lots of questions coming in about when the people can get hold of this. So as I say, it's going to be this week. It's going to be Pro Tools 2022.9. So yeah, Devon, just give us a preview of what everyone's going to be getting this week.
Yes, absolutely. And I just want to make sure that you guys can hear me well. And can you hear me well?
Yes.
Okay, awesome. So long story short, as they so eloquently put it, the integration with Melodyne inside of Pro Tools is extremely powerful. And for someone like me, who is a singer, songwriter, producer, engineer, this kind of makes my workflow a lot more seamless. Being that it's ARA, it makes it so that I don't really have to use something that feels third party to analyze that audio. I can now just basically have it loaded up and use it dynamically, meaning as soon as I load this thing up, or it's basically just in the background, just doing its job and always analyzing. It always just has a map of basically what my audio is doing from a note standpoint and the whole nine. So let me show you exactly what I'm going to do and how I'm going to use it. So this is my screen. And what I want to do for you first is I want to just play you a little bit of the song. I just want you to get an idea of what I have going on so far. So check this out.
But deep down, I just got a feeling that you might be too much for me. But either way, I wanna say you might be bad for me. So tell me if I'm wrong, are you bad for me?
Cool. So we got some music going on. And for instance, when I listen to the vocal, I say to myself, okay, sounds cool, but I want to tune it up just a little bit. Well, now it's easier than ever because I can basically go over to the lead vocal track. I'm going to go to Melodyne because it's integrated into Pro Tools now, and I'm going to click edit. And when I click edit, it basically has it analyzed in the whole nine. And now all my notes and everything is right here. So every time I basically select a region, as you can see right here, it basically loads that right into the window right there for me. So for every time I click this region, it shows me that. It shows me that. So it's super dynamic in the sense of it's giving me exactly what I want at any given moment, and it's already analyzed. Now, I'm going to highlight this whole piece, this whole section. And like I told you before, I kind of want to tighten up the vocal a little bit from a pitch standpoint. It sounds cool, but I want to just tighten it up a little bit. Well, in Melodyne, as you can see over here on the left-hand side, I already typed my key in. So the key of this song is E major. And what's really dope is when you actually put your key in, it actually has the scale right here on the left-hand side. So it's basically saying these are the right notes for the specific scale that you've selected. So as you can see, most of the notes are coinciding with those actual notes. That's how music works, right? So now let's say I want to tighten this entire thing up. What I can do is I can literally come over here, press Command A, which I'll press this from my window. I'm going to press this, Command A, and these are all my notes right here. And let's select the whole region. And as you can see, it selected my entire thing. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to come over here to the pitch macro, and I'm going to move the slider to center. What I want you to pay attention to is watch how the notes get closer to the center of the actual notes. Moving it, and you could see it tightening the entire sound up, as you can see. So before, this is 0%, and this is 100%. And basically what's happening is it's taking those notes and bringing them closer to the center of the correct pitch within your scale. Let's take a listen to that right quick.
But deep down, I just got a feeling that you might be too much for me. But either way, I wanna say you might be bad for me. So tell me if I'm wrong, are you bad for me?
And to my ears, that feels a lot more pleasing. Like when I listen to it, I'm like, wow, that really just tightened it up. And of course, you can even dive deeper into this and change individual notes if you wanted to kind of clean those up separately. But if you wanted to do something that was more overall, then that's possible too. Let me show you from a production standpoint why I think this can change the way or some problems that have been occurring in our production world. Check this out. This is what I'm really, really excited about showing you guys, because this is something that I feel like we've all been aware of. So I know some of us in the producer community may use splice loops. And when you use splice loops, a lot of times other people will have the same thing as you. We're kind of just sharing the same sounds. And I feel like we've ran into this before where you're actually hearing a song that you're like, I used that loop before. This is how I feel that the integration could really change this entire conversation. So we have a bass line, right? I'll play it for you right quick. Cool, so that's my bass line. And within that bass line, I say to myself, let's just assume this is a splice loop. And I wanna change that one note that came on towards the end because I feel like it could just be better. Let me play it with the music, and then I'll throw a Melodyne and show you that. So this is with the music, the bass line. Now, I want to change one of the notes. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to open up Melodyne on my bass line. It's analyzed already in a whole 9. And what I'm going to do is I'm looking for that note that kind of bothered me a little bit that I felt like could be better. So let's open this a little more and let's play this back. So this note right here is bothering me. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this note, and because the scale is already there, I see it, as you can see on the left-hand side, I'm going to bring it down to about an E. Listen to this. Woo! And that is crazy to me because, you know, it was so easy to do. All I did was bring it up, and it's like I'm able to manipulate my music like MIDI, and that's what I think is so powerful with having it integrated, because I don't have to go through so many steps and processes. Literally, it's already there, kind of like elastic audio. I open it up and I say, oh, there it is. It's identified for me already. The note was right there. Literally, as I look at this, I know that it was the 4th note, 1, 2, 3, 4, and so I was able to take that, bring it down, and have that kind of power. Now you can do this with guitars.
Not to interrupt your flow, you just talking about the kind of treating audio as MIDI, and I think that's a really important part of it. Maybe if you just go back to switching to your screen, one of the things I really love is that you can see actually in the clip there on the bass line, you've got these little kind of representations of what the notes are. They kind of looks like sort of MIDI notes on your audio, actually showing you where the pitches are. Just really super helpful. So yeah, so I don't want to interrupt your flow, but I think it's a really good example of that kind of, as you say, that fluidity between the audio and the MIDI.
Yeah, and kind of to piggyback off of what you said, Dave, if you have higher versions or higher tiers of Melodyne, you can get even crazier, where you could basically have chords that are playing on guitars and stuff like that and separate them and create new chord progressions and stuff like that out of your audio too. And obviously that's something I would like Stefan to kind of elaborate more on, as far as having the even higher versions of Melodyne, which can easily integrate with ARA as well.
Yeah, definitely. Stefan, I don't know if you want to sort of speak to that a little bit. I know we were just
exactly with the bass, and that's the beauty of Melodyne. You can do that with every material, but with Melodyne Essential, you can do it only with monophonic material, like one vocal, not a choir, just one person at a time. Of course, you can do it on dub vocals and harmony vocals, because you have them all on separate tracks in Pro Tools, and every track, as we could just would see, easily brought into Melodyne. It's literally just one right click and then there you are. But if you say you had a guitar chord, like somebody is strumming the whole chord, and if you move it down, like what Devon just showed on the bass, then in Melodyne Essential, you would transpose this chord, going from, I don't know, A major to G major or so. This would work. And of course, you probably you know that when you work like this with other pitch shifting, just transposing stuff, or in former days you probably used to do this with a sampler or so. You have a nice sample, you found something, and you want to bring it into your song, and only if you're lucky, it fits to the key. But it never, if the sample itself has a chord progression, it would never fit. And this would be then Melodyne Editor, where, as Devon just mentioned, they will fold up, and you see finger by finger, you see the guitarist. And then it would be, if you like, you can grab each note and place it wherever you feel like placing it. Or you can let Melodyne do the magic, and you just double click them and they snap to either to the key of the song, or even further to the chord progression you have. For example, if you have the chord progression already there in your DAW, then Melodyne can adapt to that. Or Melodyne, and this is something even Melodyne Essential can do. Melodyne can look, like in your example, Devon, you knew, because you're the composer, you knew it was this key it was. But if you didn't know that, you would just have opened the, I don't know, the piano maybe, or the guitar, something that's playing the chords, and have Melodyne look at it, and Melodyne will tell you, well, that's how it goes. Here's the lead sheet. And then you would go to your vocal and your dub vocal and your harmony vocal, and then the notes will slap to the chords you have, if you want it like that.
Right,
So
right.
You're very flexible.
Right. And I noticed that. And that's what makes it so fun, is because I know that even if I didn't know the key, the chromatic scale is there, and I could just kind of make my own decision as far as like, oh, right there, that feels like a better note on my actual grid and stuff like that. So I just like how seamless it is with Pro Tools, because it's, instead of me saying, and ironically, I did see Andrew Sheps actually brought this up as well, saying that basically, instead of saying, okay, here's my workflow, where it's like, okay, edit, then mix, now it's Melodyne time. Now it's kind of like, it's a part of like the beginning, it's a part of the entire workflow. In that very moment, I can say, oh, you know what? Let me just fix that right quick. Bang, boom. And I can come back to it. I don't have to commit it. I can always refer back to it. So I think that that's honestly, from a workflow standpoint, that's where I think that's where it's going to really, really shine for me, for vocals as well as production as well.
Definitely. And that really kind of production has really all moved that direction, isn't it? Everything's live. Everything's, kind of available right until the very last minute. And it just means that you're, constantly in a place where you can kind of tweak things and so on, even right through the mix process. And of course, that just kind of helps you to keep all those things.
You don't have to the need anymore, as you did before, ARA, to lay off some important process, like what I was mentioning earlier in comping, for example. Lay this off to a later point in time. This would kill your flow. If you want to do it today, you want to do it in a different running order than you did yesterday, and then you just do it. You're not forced anymore to keep certain steps. And also, you don't have to bounce or render or so all the time, because it's all there. The next day you open up Pro Tools, everything is there again. You don't have to kind of reload it or so. That's another part of the integration, that all musical edits you did, they are just part of Pro Tools.
Right.
No, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, so Devon, we sort of, I don't know if you want to, if there's another example there you've got that you want to kind of run through.
Sure.
We've got tons of other questions and things coming in, but yeah, I'd love to kind of hear some more things from you about how.
Sure, no problem. Yeah. So another thing I would like to show you guys is the guitar, for instance, right? A lot of times with us working with samples and stuff like that, the guitar, or just any samples, for instance, sometimes I want to transpose that, or I want to pitch shift it down, or just kind of change the key and stuff like that. And what tends to happen with that for my producers out there is sometimes it brings in a little bit of a wonkiness. It kind of gets a little pitchy because of the timing and things of that nature. So kind of how I did the vocals is the same way I kind of can treat the guitar as well. So check this out. Let's go over here. And this is my guitar. So I solo my guitar. So it's a little wonky. It's fine. I can get away with it, but I have the ability to make it better. So what I'll do is same thing I've been doing. I'll open up Melodyne right here, and Melodyne has all the notes, as you can see. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a similar process where I basically have the scale already locked in the whole nine from my settings. And I'm going to select all of these notes, and I'm going to select them all. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to do the same thing that I did before, where I'm just going to tighten up the actual notes, where as I move the pitch center more towards the right, you're going to see it get closer to the actual note as far as the center to sound more in key or in pitch, as they say. So as I move it more to the right, you see it tightening it up, and then I'm going to press play. And it sounds better to my ears. I can feel that difference where it just feels a lot more pleasing, and it's subtle, and you can do drastic things, but at the same time, you can use it as a tool to fix things. And at the same time, you can use it as a tool to be creative, which I showed you with the bass. So that's why I think it's all purpose, all encompassing, because it's not only just, oh, I'm just trying to fix something to create, to fix problems, but it can also be used creatively. And that's what I think is the biggest thing for me as far as the workflow is concerned. It's not just a tool that I'm going to use to fix anymore. It's going to be a tool in my creative process as well to kind of move things along or to just kind of be on the fly. And that's the biggest thing for me, is not having to look for so many different things to get one outcome. Now it's just seamless. And like they said before, it's right there. It doesn't move. I don't have to render it. I don't have to bounce in place. I don't have to do anything. It's just there. And that's my biggest thing about it as far as the workflow is concerned. So
yeah, no, definitely. Actually, I think can we bring in Stefan again for a minute? 'Cause I think you've got some things, some comments and so on that particular guitar example.
Yeah, that was a good example on the differences I was explaining with the other versions. For example, what you did here, you made it sound better in tune, but of course you couldn't fix that it was detuned in itself. Mm-hmm. Because one note you move up consists of, I don't know, 4 strings or so. And 3 of the 4 strings are a little bit flat, and one was okay. And then you move it up, so the 3 flat ones get better, but the one that was okay gets worse. So it actually does work on many examples and many samples you find or many recordings you do yourself. But if you want to have maximum control, you should go to Melodyne Editor, and you can even simulate this. So if you share your screen again, I would want to show you something. Let's look at the guitar. And now go to the algorithm menu in Melodyne, to there, and go to the, you first have to select one note first. Any note, all notes, or just one or all, doesn't matter.
Okay.
And then go to the algorithm menu. Okay. And choose the polyphonic algorithm. Polyphonic, no, more to the left. Left column there. Just take this. Yeah, up. Polyphonic.
Sustain?
Yeah, no, the other one.
Polyphonic decay?
Yeah, decay is better for guitar. Sustain would be better for organs or so.
Okay.
And just let the mouse go. Okay. And then, click that. And then you see it's analyzing, it's looking at the guitar again. And for the whole track in this example, or the whole long clip. And here it comes, showing you, oops, still calculating. There you go. And now you see the actually polyphonic notes.
Wow.
And now, since you're in Melodyne Essential, these are gray, which is a pity because you can't touch and move them around. But with Melodyne Editor, you could touch and move them around. With Melodyne Essential, still, this is a good idea to do this, because now if you drag the clip to a MIDI instrument clip, you have the polyphonic notes as MIDI notes or so. So that's why we also have this polyphony in Melodyne Essential, because Pro Tools can make good use of it. But now, if your goal was to really work on a guitar that was detuned in itself, you would be kind of only going for the good. Some chords get better, some gets worse with Essential, and with Melodyne Editor or Melodyne Studio, you can really fix things like that.
And deep dive. So basically with the Melodyne Studio, I can get more functionality out of it as far as being able to manipulate those chords.
Yes. And
Gotcha.
another thing that's nice in Melodyne, if you're working with many vocals, like many dub vocals or harmony vocals, you can do this in Melodyne Essential. You can edit them one by one after the other. And in Melodyne Studio, you get them all on screen. Like you say, you see your arrangement, and you're looking across several tracks in Pro Tools. You're still keeping to mix them in Pro Tools, all with the individual effects and everything. But the musical editing is done for a bunch of vocals just like that. So that's an incredible speeding up your workflow, which is necessary if you work on genres like that a lot. And but if you do it just from time to time or so, then you're good to go with the smaller versions also.
Right. That's powerful. That's insane.
Yeah.
I thank you for actually showing me that as well, because I think a lot of Pro Tools users like myself, Melodyne may be a little newer to us in that respect. I've used it before, but I've never did like a really deep dive until recently, until I had it. And so knowing those types of things is really important, because it's like, oh, wow, there's even more control that I have. So I didn't know that, but thank you, sir. I appreciate that. Yeah.
Absolutely.
There's a lot of things that you may discover from when time is up or so. It's
right.
The most important thing, especially now with the ARA integration into Pro Tools, is you don't have to read any manual or so. You just know that you kind of right click as you did on the name of the track, or you could even right click on just a clip alone, and then you find Melodyne, and then you're good to go.
Right.
A few things you may want to look up, like there are great key commands in Pro Tools that's especially for Melodyne to even speed up your workflow.
Yes.
But this is something you take day by day once you started working with it.
Yeah, it's basically I'll get tighter and tighter with it, and more like used to it. Of course, that's basically what's happening. But I know in my heart that it's in. Like, I'm like, oh, I want to make sure I learn this even more and just get it, the most out of it that I possibly can. Sure.
So I just wanted to clear up, there's a couple of questions around sort of some of the kind of mechanics of certain things. So I just want to clear up a few things that are coming on the Q&A. And so I think I'd said this already, but just want to really make sure that everyone knows that if you're a current subscriber or you're on an upgrade plan, you have Melodyne Essential. So that we made that available since Pro Tools 2020.11. So and that is the kind of the minimum requirement to get you up and running with Melodyne. And that is available regardless if you've got Pro Tools Artist, Pro Tools Studio, Pro Tools Ultimate. So every Pro Tools user has access to this ARA functionality, and so they'll have that Melodyne Essentials. But Stefan, I was wondering maybe if you could help us out a little bit. A few people are kind of asking questions around, I've already got Melodyne Studio, I've got version 5. Am I kind of forced back into Essentials when I'm using Pro Tools? How does that work? So it'd be interesting if you could maybe explain a little bit about that. It'd be useful.
No, you don't have to worry. We would never downgrade you, take away features. So actually what gets installed with Pro Tools is the Melodyne 5. And it behaves as the same code that gets installed behaves as Melodyne Essential or Melodyne Studio or anything in between, depending on your serial number. So if you already own Melodyne, and say you own Melodyne Editor or so, and you load the new installer, then you just get a new Melodyne Editor. So you stay in the feature set you have, you just get the new ARA features you need to have. And so you will never lose something. And this, there's one thing, if you don't have Melodyne 5 yet, Melodyne 5 is out around since, 4 years or so, but say you're still on Melodyne 4 or so, and then we wouldn't install Melodyne 5 Essential, or Pro Tools wouldn't do it. You're legitimate to do it because you own the serial number. If you updated your Pro Tools, you get the Melodyne serial number, but it's your decision if you want to use the ARA workflow in Melodyne Essential or keep the higher tier feature set, but not ARA. So these are the only ones who may have to have a kind of second thought what they want to do. And it's actually when you install it, you get asked, what do you want to do? And then, of course, tomorrow you can change your mind and it's reinstall what you had before. So it's nothing set in stone here.
Yeah.
So.
Wow, that's good. It's good to know you've got all the options. So someone did ask whether the Melodyne plugin continues to work as a standard plugin insert for older session compatibility. So I presume that's you could work that way if you really want.
Very important question. Of course, if you open your session you saved yesterday or today and you save it once the new version is there, it will be the same as it was before. It's still inserted in the channel, and all your edits are there. They sound exactly the same, and no need to kind of render those just to open it now with the ARA version or so. No, you just, with the older sessions, you just continue working like that. But if you want to edit a new track in this older session of yours, say you already finished the lead vocal in the old method last week or so, and now you want to do the dub vocal or so, then you can decide to do it the one way or the other. It's from now on you have both, and nothing gets taken away from you.
Yeah. There's a couple of questions around sort of processing. I just maybe it'd be something kind of to discuss. So just to be clear, so the Melodyne it's a native process, and it's actually running. So if you think of the audio coming from disk, it actually goes through the Melodyne process first before going through clip effects, clip gain, and then hits your insert. So I think it's useful for people to have that in mind as they think about the kind of the signal path and where Melodyne sits in there. I think that's kind of useful. But in terms of again, a couple of questions around kind of CPU usage and so on. And obviously, as I say, it's a real-time process running on the processor. Is that something you want to make it as efficient as it possibly can be? So maybe if there's a few things you can say on that.
Well, yeah, what we've seen when we were looking at Devon's screen, that sometimes we had to wait a little bit when he was opening it up on the bass, for example, for the first time. It took a moment, and then there were the notes. And if you, what he did later then, when I asked him to do the polyphonic analysis on the guitar, it took a little bit longer. But it only does it once, because the first time you look at the guitar, it's finding like a few hundred notes or so. And this takes a certain amount of time, but from then on you work in real time. And in terms of CPU, it doesn't make actually a difference if you play back the bass without Melodyne or with Melodyne. You wouldn't notice it. But if you have, say, a 60-minute orchestra recording with lots of notes and a high polyphony or so, it would make a difference if you just listen to it like that as a stereo audio file, or with all the Melodyne things happening. But in practice, you hardly ever really need to worry about that. Of course, you can, and it's the integration Pro Tools did with the new version now with Melodyne and ARA is so well thought that all the rendering and committing steps you may take in order to, if you have long and huge files or so, it's so easy to do, and the workflow is always streamlined and fast, and you actually don't have to worry about your computer being not being able to follow your musical idea or wishes. Right. So really, you must think of Melodyne as a synthesizer that plays back, or if it would be a synthesizer, it would play back like 1,000 voices of polyphony, and you wouldn't even hardly ever notice it or something. Right. So.
Yeah, I was going to say to you, just from my workflow, it didn't bother me at all. It didn't feel like, okay, got to wait for this to load or anything like that. Especially being that I'm not going to be basically using it, say for instance, in the recording process. You know, if I'm recording, then obviously I'm trying to nail everything and play everything correctly. But from a mixing standpoint, when I was using it, I didn't feel like it was slowing me down or anything like that. I didn't get that kind of feeling, even when it just loading that one moment. It's like, okay, loaded, analyze, boom, I'm done. So I just wanted to comment on that from a workflow standpoint. It didn't bother me at all. I didn't feel like, oh, this is slowing, like, come on, hurry up. I never felt like that at all. I just wanted to mention that. And my computer's been fine. I've been using it for a little bit now. So it's been pretty seamless. It feels like it's not taking up actually anything as far as CPU usage. Of course it is, but I don't feel that at all. And I think that's important. I just wanted to say that out loud from a user standpoint.
Yeah, absolutely. And as you say, I mean, even a kind of a short break for analysis is nothing compared to the real-time transfer. So, you know, you're gaining every step along the process, right?
Right, exactly. What I get out of 1 second of hold on is far significant, you know, than me doing that by myself. Yeah,
definitely. There was one question from about video tutorials, and I have to say, and I think Devon, you said the same, that the tutorials that Celemony have done are pretty comprehensive. I mean, you know, you can get on YouTube and you can really learn absolutely everything you need to know about Melodyne. But I just wanted to mention that we actually have produced some videos from within the team within Avid to get you started, little quick tips videos to kind of get you started along that process, and then sort of talking a little bit more about it in detail. But as I say, there's plenty of great content out there, and hopefully as we move forward with this, and we should see more videos and more tutorials coming.
Yeah, you'll definitely see one from me for sure. Just letting you know.
Look forward to that. Absolutely.
Yeah.
You may also see one or two from Celemony. We actually prepared, and they will be available as soon as this version is available. It's more than 60 minutes of new videos only on that new ARA workflow, because it's so important that we. It was so much fun to do the video, so we did that. But maybe that's something we should also tell our viewers. You can access them very easily in the menu inside Melodyne. There's a help menu, and it takes you to our what we call the help center. And this is our online manual, but the beauty of it is when you access it from within Pro Tools, it will only show you things related to Pro Tools. And if you access it from Melodyne Essential, it will only show you things related to Melodyne Essential. So you never need to read something and ask yourself, well, is this also true for me, or do I have to have another DAW or another Melodyne edition or so? It's very specialized on your situation, and it's a lot of text you may want to read if you like, and search functions for that, or you just skip all this and just watch the videos we did there. So.
Yeah, definitely.
Whenever you're not sure what to do next in your creative flow, you have a break and you watch the video and then you continue.
Yeah. Actually, on that subject of learning and getting used to it and so on, there's a question about sort of keyboard shortcuts and modifiers and so on. So I don't know. Actually, maybe we could have a look at that with on screen, but. Obviously, there are, Melodyne has its own keyboard shortcuts and so on, but you can also tell it to, follow the Pro Tools keyboard shortcuts, right? So yeah.
If you want, I can quickly share my screen.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm running Melodyne Studio here, but what I show you, Melodyne Studio would be exactly the same with Melodyne Essential or any other edition. Just go to Settings, Preferences, and you find all about shortcuts here. And what we do, we have a different set of shortcuts. I'm already using a Pro Tools shortcut list or set, because when you're new to Melodyne, the first time you install it, all the typical Melodyne shortcuts for zooming or so will be exactly the same then in Pro Tools. So you don't need to relearn anything. You can, of course, let's see You just type in Zoom here, for example, and you see, okay, these are the available shortcuts. And I don't like this one. It's like my personal, I don't know, would be Z or so. So I just type it in and then I'm good to go. And so I defined my own shortcut. And of course I can save this then and take it over to another machine or so. And maybe if you are using Melodyne in the past, you already did this. And then when you install a new version, we see, or the installer sees, that you already have your own commands. And so we won't override them with the list of Pro Tools commands. But we believe that we covered the most important shortcuts to be as easy for you to start with, and then you take it from there and you can modify it whenever you want to. Plus, what we need to add, it's Pro Tools did some great new shortcuts also. For example, Devon already showed that you can resize the Melodyne window like that, right? And you can open and close it with the, what is it, Control Option 8. Oh no, sorry. Option 8 opens and closes it, and Control Option 8 just brings it to a higher size, depending on the size of your screen. I'm just working on a small MacBook here, so it's not so much screen. So, but these are the small details, and this new implementation of ARA in Pro Tools is so full of small details. They are so beautifully thought. Like we added new commands to Melodyne, especially for Pro Tools now, because it makes so much sense. If, for example, if you look at the clip and you want to see the clip, or you want to zoom completely to the clip, that's just a shortcut in Pro Tools, like so, yeah. And Melodyne would do the same shortcut also when you hit a special key command or so. Don't want to go in too much detail here, but it's full of well thought examples to even speed up your workflow.
Yeah, that zoom to selection. As soon as I've turned that on, that's never getting turned off again. That's so.
Yeah, it's actually what you may wonder why this wasn't there since years already, because it's so useful.
Yes,
Exactly, yeah.
very.
Absolutely. Actually, one just thing while we're looking at Pro Tools, just wanted to mention. So at the bottom there, where we've got the Melodyne, you can see it says Melodyne. We've implemented a little sort of tab system. So that's, the MIDI editor, the dock MIDI editor has been there for, quite a few years now, but we're also making use of the same space. You've got Melodyne, and then also for your clip effects as well. So this kind of new sort of tabbed area is just a really kind of neat place to do editing, whether that's audio editing and MIDI editing. So again, that's something that we can look at sort of developing further, but I think that's a really kind of nice, neat solution to kind of how we integrate those and bring those into Pro Tools.
Yeah, what's funny? I was gonna ask you, and this is how I genuinely I genuinely was like clicking around. I saw that, and I was like, I want to bring this up, but was this there before? Like, I seen that process as far as the clip effects, and I was like, I asked around. I was like, was this there before? Because that's really powerful to have, like, just built-in kind of processes in the thing. Is that new?
So the clip effects has been it was in Pro Tools Ultimate for kind of several years now. But just with as we kind of brought out Pro Tools Studio, we've added it into there, so it's now available to a load more people. And previously we had it at the top of your Pro Tools screen, and if you knew it was there, easy to access. But actually, this tab system, bring it down to the bottom, makes it far more obvious that it's there. And I think it's making it available to a lot more users. So yeah, I'm really glad you're saying that, because I think clip effects, and it goes hand in hand with what we've done with Melodyne. You kind of do your Melodyne work, and then you can sort of switch over to clip effects, and then do some EQ and dynamics. And as I say, that processing is the Melodyne processing happens first, and then clip effects, and then clip gain happens after that. So
gotcha. Okay, I was wondering.
That.
Awesome. Okay, great. I was, because it was very, this time, well, now it's really obvious. I saw it and I said, oh, I've never seen this, and that's what made me say, like, I never knew it was there before. So I appreciate that. I didn't know that, but I will be diving into that as well.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So there, we've put up a little kind of poll. So would definitely love to get your feedback on this session. Hopefully this is something which is been really useful to you, and we'll maybe carry on going for another couple of minutes. There's some other questions that have come in. I did actually want to address one specific one. So the subject of accessibility in Pro Tools is something which is really important to us, and we've over the past, I would say, probably 4 or 5 years, really spent a lot of time and effort making Pro Tools accessible to visually impaired users, particularly using the voiceover function on Mac. And I think that implementation has really sort of as I say, it's something which we're constantly looking at and improving. So there was a question about that. So I'm not sure, Stefan, whether there's if we can speak to the kind of the screen reader or the voiceover functionality within sort of Melodyne, or whether that's something which is there.
No, not really. There are no special functions in Melodyne. It's just what you can do with the OS of your computer, but that's about it. We don't have any own functions on that. Yeah,
that's certainly something. Certainly an area I think it is. With all things in Pro Tools, we're certainly not going to leave it there. There's lots more things that we can do, and that's one area I certainly think that we could, we can sort of see some, can continue to work in that area, continue to improve in that area, because I think that's really important. So let me just see if there's anything else you think you want to drop in there. Please do. I'm just going to have a quick look and see if there's any other questions or any burning topics we haven't covered. Actually, maybe Stefan, there was one thing. I know you kind of touched on this a bit, but maybe kind of push you a little bit further on the implementation within Pro Tools specifically, and maybe some of the things which we've been able to do in conjunction with Celemony to really kind of I say, coming back to this word integration again, to really sort of make it part of the application.
Yeah. With ARA, as I explained earlier, it's just an additional kind of like a new language with new words you can communicate about more. And when you integrate this into your DAW, this doesn't necessarily mean you do it all. You can leave things out or so. But whatever they did it all, right? Okay, you haven't been the first to do it, obviously, but it's done really properly. Actually, you started it with Pro Tools 2012. It was like the audio to MIDI function was already based on ARA. That was just one sole topic you picked, and then now in this new version, everything is there, apart from very minor things, maybe like the exchange of the chord symbols in Pro Tools that are there. They can't be transferred to Melodyne or the other way around or so. But
yes, there was a question about that. That's certainly something that would be a very nice thing.
So a few details still leave room for further improvements, maybe on both sides.
Yeah.
But the overall integration, it's just let me give you two or three examples. For example, when you work with copies of a clip, right? You wouldn't with an audio clip, you wouldn't bother with this if it is a real copy or an alias copy or whatever. It's just a copy of audio or so. But with Melodyne, it's the question that the notes in the audio, how should they behave? It's the same question you have with MIDI clips, of course, and you have a workflow for that in Pro Tools to have a real copy behavior. So you create independent copies, or you have a mirrored kind of editing, and very similar with Melodyne. So very well thought in the Pro Tools workflow. As a user, you can have both a real copy, an independent copy, or an alias copy, or whatever you would want to call it. And it's both available, and but it's mostly, it automatically does what you would expect it does. because it's so clever thought. For example, if you duplicate a lead vocal to a different track, it makes an exact copy of all the edits you've done already, but from then on it's independent because you're maybe wanting to create a quickly harmony vocals from that. But you don't want to need to correct all the mistakes you already corrected in the lead vocal in the first place or so. And so many examples like this where it's really, really well thought and fun to work with, because you hardly ever have to question yourself, why does it behave like I wouldn't have expected it? It just does what you would expect.
Excellent. Thank you so much. And maybe as a final word on using your theme of fun to play with, maybe Devon, if you got some closing words on your experiences so far.
Yeah. One thing Stefan brought up is the fact that I can duplicate a vocal with all the edits that I did already. And then I can even create a track where I create harmonic content, where I can literally create harmonies now, like, strictly just within the actual DW without even recording them. So I can basically duplicate that lead vocal track, bring it to another track, go in Melodyne, change the notes and have like a harmonic content under it without me recording it. So I think that's pretty scary. That's something that I'm looking to try out, but it is pretty trippy. It's pretty scary to know I can do that now. So I'm looking, like I said, I'm new to it, and I'm really, really excited about it because I already see how much things I could possibly do with this. So I'm excited that you guys did this, and I appreciate it. And thank you for listening to producers and just basically just all of us writers, the whole nine, because it's something that I never thought I even needed. But I think it's going to work out well. Yeah.
This is great. Yeah. Creative possibilities. I think that's a really great sort of point to finish it on. It's about creative possibilities. So thank you so much, Devon. Thank you so much, Stefan. This has been really just so much amazing information. This has been great. So really appreciate you taking the time. Thank you to everyone for joining us, and we'll see you on the next one. Thank you.
Yep. All right.
Cheers. Bye.
Bye-bye, everyone.